It's the 22nd anniversary, Scott, of one of the most memorable results in Celtic's history, as if to rub in the fact that they've got so much or such limited striking options this season. It's the anniversary of Celtic going to Barcelona, holding out in the Nou Camp for a 0-0 draw and eliminating Barcelona 1-0 on aggregate. Would you say, Scott, the current striking options that Celtic have are better than Larsson and Sutton, or on a par? Or how would you frame it?
Oh, it's close, very close.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but
Junior Adami or Henrik Larsson or
it's a toss-up, isn't it?
Chara or Sutton. I think Big Sutty would fancy his chances that one-on-one with Fanchara or Adami. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I wanted to get your take on Celtic, those Scots. I was listening to the Record Rangers podcast the other day, and you were saying that you were really surprised by Celtic losing at Dundee United, and I do agree from the point of view that you can't throw at the Celtic team a lack of desire. They've always come back for whatever lack of talent they've got. They never give up. You see that Ibrox and stuff. Whereas in Sunday, it kind of looked like a few of the players had chucked it, to be honest. Or to me, at least.
Honestly, Daniel, I was shocked with that performance. And I know Celtic fans will say, maybe seen them this season. And I've not seen them a lot of live games. Obviously, it's mostly the Rangers games that I cover. But even when I seen the starting 11 for Celtic, I thought, that's a fairly strong starting 11 of the players that they had available. Obviously, I thought even Ian Atchell coming back would be a boost for them, because I still think on his game he's probably still the best number 9 they've got at the minute. Nygren he can always rely on for goals. Callum McGregor back in the team. I just looked at it and thought I really fancied Celtic. I know the pitch was so poor at Tannadice. I get that, and it's difficult to play quality football on it. But you touched on it there. The most striking thing was just a lack of hunger and appetite. And listen, that's something I've thrown at Rangers teams over the last few years in terms of their inability to go over the line and win titles. I've been shocked at the word I always use with Rangers when they were struggling to get into title races was urgency. Mm-hmm. And Celtic were absolutely devoid of urgency. It was as if the players didn't realise the kind of magnitude of the game or what was at stake or what stage they were at in the season. And honestly, but even when I think about a couple of weeks ago, Celtic played poorly at Ibrox for 45 minutes in the league game, and then pretty much for 90 minutes in the cup game or 120 minutes before it went to penalties. But in both of those games, they had a bit of grit and determination and desire and resilience about them that kind of got them a point in the league game and then gets them over the line in the cup. I was really surprised at the fact there was none of that at Tannadice. Forget quality. As I say, quality was going to be difficult on that surface anyway, even though Dundee United actually produced the rare moments of quality in the game. But I was really surprised by that result. Just given what was at stake, given the fact Hearts and Rangers had already won, you're expecting any Celtic team to come flying out the traps. But it was a nothing performance for them. And how many times have you been able to say that about a Celtic team in the midst of a title race? No, very often. Certainly in the last 5 to 10 years, you could never accuse Celtic of that. And that's why I think that'll be a worry for Martin O'Neill, that performance, the fact that they're capable of that. And Tam touched on it earlier, they probably need to win the 7 games now to go and win the title. I think their next game away to Dens Park is going to be really difficult. I mean, if they turn up and produce anything like they produced at Tannadice, they won't win at Dens Park. They've already struggled there this season. I think Stephen Presley's got Dundee together again, and they've got a wee bit about them. They've got attacking threats that can hurt you. Dundee even played well at Tynecastle last week, even though they lost 1-0. So I think that's a really difficult away game for Celtic. And Callum McGregor, Martin O'Neill, they've all said that any sort of slip up in that game, you would need to think knocks them out of it altogether. And then we're talking about a 2-horse race all of a sudden.
One last visit to the comments, Scott, before I wrap up. Tone says, Celtic goals have mostly always been from midfield, so it's not a surprise about the non-strikers. Gavaldo says it was Celtic's second half performance that looked like they gave up or looked shattered. Tiro says Martin O'Neill's very much a first 11 manager. He hasn't got a first 11 this time. Tony again says the money they've spent, they should be walking the league. Green Machine says that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen Celtic play, and I've been around since the days of Moses. Sing the Blues says no matter who Celtic select, they don't suit Martin O'Neill's style. James says Celtic have lost 9 games this season, yet they're still in there, which shows how nuts this season is. I think it's 8 in the league, but that brings me.
That is great. I mean, 8 defeats this season should put you out of the title race, but that's just the kind of campaign that we've had. And as a guy mentioned the second half performance there, he's right. I mean, when Dundee United score first to go ahead, even when they get the second, you normally always expect a response for Celtic towards the end. Normally they're batting teams' door down to try and get a goal, even if it's not to get a point out of the game. Just never materialised. I don't remember the Dundee United keeper making a meaningful save in the second half. So it's a big worry for them. No, you're right. The strikers, the striking area is a problem. It's interesting. I've just today on social media, I see a lot of Celtic fans talking about, maybe going to maybe changing the formation, going to a 3-5-2. Martin O'Neill's kind of favourite system back in the day in his first spell in charge. And I don't disagree with that. I think he probably has to try something a bit different. The players they've got the now, they probably suit a 3-5-2 when you think about like Scales and Tierney and the left, Alistair Johnson if he gets back on the right. The wingers aren't quite doing it. They've got good central midfielders. It might allow Nygren a bit more license to get forward without the kind of responsibility of getting back. So he can kind of prioritise getting in the box for goals. And obviously going with 2 strikers might just give you that bit more threat, whether that's Maeda and Chvanchara or Adamu, or you play Nygren up there, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. But the point is, with 7 games to go, are they going to kind of rip it up and try something different? They might. And as I say, Martin O'Neill was used to that system. Whether Sean Maloney's keen on it, who knows? But it'll be interesting to see. How they react at Dens Park in that next game. I mean, obviously it'll be annoying them because they've got a fortnight to chew on the Tannadice performance before they can play again. But it'll be interesting to see what he changes, because that performance, especially in the midst of a title race, was unacceptable.
Speeds there in the comments predicts that Celtic will react. He says this is definitely not over. As you can see on your screen now, the league table. Look, I'd agree with the comment from Speeds there, Scott, that it's not over. But I think Celtic now, are really by the skin of their teeth. I agree with you. Any slip up at Dens Park, I think it's over. And above and beyond that, I would be stunned if the Celtic team won 7 games in a row.
They're up against it. There's no doubt about that. The only thing I'd say is, I think I said to Andy the other day, I suppose the thing they've got in their favour is that we pretty much know they'll have Hearts and Rangers post-split at Celtic Park. And there's no doubt that's a huge advantage. So if they can hang in there and give themselves a chance, you know what the atmosphere can be like, Daniel. When the fans get it together there and it's a massive game and there's so much at stake, it can be tough for teams going there if the atmosphere's right. So I think if you're a Celtic fan, you're going to be clinging on to that hope that we're still in it. We've got to play Hearts and Rangers at home, which I think is going to be crucial.